Okay, this is Susan Knisely, and today we are having a special training session for new members of the Nebraska OverDrive Libraries group. We'll go ahead and get started. It should last between probably yesterday our session lasted about 1 hour and 45 minutes. So I suspect today will be about the same. If for some reason you have to leave early, that's fine. I certainly understand that close to 2 hours is a long time to be able to commit to something like this. So I certainly understand if you have to leave early. You will be able to come back and watch a recording of any sections you miss at a later time. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. Just to give you a bit of an overview of what we're going to do today. I do want to start out with a few PowerPoint slides, and I will send these slides to you after the session is over today, so you will have everything that is written on the slides sent to you, so you don't have to worry about writing it down. I want to give you some background information about the group in general, how it was formed, how it's evolved, how it's funded, and some of our policies and procedures that we've established over the years. I want to talk specifically about the file formats material is available in through OverDrive, and also talk about the software that you will need to use, the types of software or the types of devices that will work with those different file formats. We'll go to the Nebraska OverDrive Library's website and work through some searches and talk about some of the types of information you can find within the site. I'll walk through several download demos to show you how to get different types of content onto different types of devices. And finally, we'll finish up talking about some of the help resources that are available to you. So let's go ahead and get started talking about the group. The Nebraska OverDrive Libraries Group is a group of libraries that join together with both administrative and financial support from the Library Commission. And the purpose of joining together was the need to share the costs of offering OverDrive downloadable audiobooks initially and eventually ebooks to patrons. A group of libraries first started talking back in December 2006. The discussion was largely focused on how to make this affordable. This project, this program, this service was too expensive for any of the individual libraries to go it alone, and so we had to figure out how can we financially pay for this service and make it affordable not only for the larger libraries but also the smaller libraries. The planning process took quite some time, and it wasn't until March 2008 that we were actually able to go live with the service. When we started, we had 25 member libraries, and on opening day, we had 496 audiobooks. And as you can imagine, almost all those audiobooks got checked out right away. So it was a real crush in terms of access to content. For the first 2 years, our group just purchased and made available audiobooks. That was our initial goal. But by 2010, the hype and interest in ebooks had grown to the point that we did begin buying ebooks as well. And since that time, we have continued to buy ebooks, and now our ebook collection is actually larger than our audiobook collection, though we still continue to buy both formats. Today, we've got 166 member libraries, and if you take the populations served by all those libraries and add them together, we serve a combined population of over 650,000. The group has over 7,000 audiobook titles in the collection and over 14,000 ebook titles in the collection. So as you can see, we have grown a lot since March 2008. To give you some background on funding, the startup costs to join OverDrive are quite substantial, and that was the primary reason why none of the initial member libraries could afford to go it alone. The startup cost to create the website and the infrastructure to support our collection was $28,000. That is something that the Nebraska Library Commission did pay for, so we paid that initial setup cost. There's also an annual maintenance fee that gets paid to OverDrive of $12,000, and the Library Commission has also committed to paying that each year. So that is all money that member libraries did not have to pay. It's also, it's not money, the money that you contribute all gets to go towards content. It doesn't have to be diluted by paying for maintenance fees. So that gets us to our collection development budget, and that is the money that comes from you each year. Every year, participating libraries pay a participation fee. It's typically been 13 cents per population served the initial year, with a minimum cost of $500, and then in subsequent years, libraries pay 10 cents per pop served. So with all of the 166 libraries contributing annual membership fees, participation fees, we collected this year for the upcoming 2014-2015 participation year $115,000. So that's the pot of money that came from participating libraries. We've also been lucky. Last year and this year, we've benefited from a special appropriation from the legislature to provide additional funds for Nebraska, for e-reading material for Nebraska citizens. They made an appropriation of $150,000 last year and $150,000 this year, and those funds were divided between the Nebraska OverDrive Libraries Group, Lincoln City Libraries, which has its own OverDrive collection, and Omaha Public Library and Ralston Public Library, which in conjunction with each other have an OverDrive collection. So this year, based on division by pop served, our group's portion of that funding was $69,000. Every year we have some additional donations and contributions, either from member libraries or once in a while the Library Commission has some extra money that we're able to donate to content. And so far this year I think we've had a couple donations from libraries. The upshot is that our total collection development budget for October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2015 is $185,324. So sometimes that's a nice figure to have in the back of your mind. I know all of you who joined this time around were smaller libraries with smaller budgets, and you paid the $500 annual participation fee, which is a lot for a library with a small budget. But it's nice to be able to then come back to your board or respond or explain to your patrons that yes, we contributed $500, and as a result, we are getting to participate in a collection that has an annual budget of $185,000. So you will have access to $185,000 worth of content in addition to new content this year, and that builds on the content from previous years that's already been added to the collection. So it's a pretty good bang for your buck. To give you some information about how the group does collection development. In the process of getting you guys set up for access to OverDrive, I did create an OverDrive, or I started the account creation process for each of you to have a Marketplace account. OverDrive Marketplace is, I call it a type of administrative module for OverDrive. It's where you can go to get usage reports. You can access a support form as a librarian in order to submit technical support requests. And it also lets you get access to the complete collection of content available to purchase. So at least one person at each library should have a Marketplace account. If you didn't get yours set up yet, just let me know and I can reactivate that process and get it started again for you so you can get that account set up. So all of you, through your Marketplace account, can search and browse the complete catalog of titles available to purchase. You are always welcome and encouraged to make title purchase suggestions to our volunteer selectors. We have 2 of them who do have purchase permissions. The first is Mary Jo Mack, who's the director of the John A. Stahl Library in West Point, and she has been purchasing adult fiction for us for a number of years, both audiobook and ebook. We have a separate collector who purchases adult nonfiction and juvenile young adult titles, and that's Karen Drivo from Norfolk Public Library. I have their email addresses on this slide, and as I said, they always welcome suggestions. There are 2 of us at the Library Commission that also have purchase permissions, and that is Deborah Dragos and myself. So if you ever have requests and you want to send them to us, you can do that as well, and we can go in and make purchases. Additionally, you may have noticed that there is an option within the Nebraska OverDrive Libraries interface that patrons have access to search for additional titles available to recommend for purchase. So through that interface, if patrons go beyond what is available in the collection and search what's available to recommend, they can actually see themselves what's available for potential purchase. And there's a way through the interface for them to submit a request. And when they submit a request, that's not necessarily a guarantee that the item will be purchased, but they can ask that if it is purchased, that they be that a hold be placed for them and that it go to them first. So that's also a nice way to get some suggestions for what people are interested in reading. A little bit of background information on how content is made available to us. And this has been a touchy issue over the years because publishers have been sometimes less than willing to or less than comfortable making their content available in electronic format to libraries. So all our audiobooks and some of our ebooks are made available in a model that is in many ways similar to print. We buy a copy. That one copy is available to be used by one person at a time, just like print. And once we buy it, we own it or we have access to it indefinitely. So that's the primary and the preferred model as far as libraries are concerned, I believe. Just like in the case of print, if all copies are checked out, a patron can place a hold on it, and if enough holds build up, we will as a group purchase additional copies. We have set ourselves a target hold ratio of 5:1, so what that means is that we never want there to be more than 5 holds per copy of the book. So if we've got a popular title and it gets 6 holds on it, then we try to go in and purchase an additional copy so we have 2 copies. So that is something to keep your eyes on. Sometimes it'll look like there are lots of holds on a book, but make sure you take note of how many copies are available as well. 20 holds on one copy of a book is a lot different than 20 holds on if we've got 4 or 5 copies of a book. Some publishers came later to the table as far as making their content available to OverDrive, to libraries through OverDrive, and they have made some different decisions about how they're going to make that content available. HarperCollins is a good example. They decided that they were going to make their books available for 26 checkouts. So if we buy one copy of a book it can be checked out 26 times, and after those 26 checkouts, it's no longer available unless our group decides to purchase another copy. Penguin Group also has a different model. They make their content available for 12 months. So we buy a copy, it can be checked out as many times as possible, but after 12 months it expires and we have to purchase an additional copy if we still want to make it available. Macmillan chose sort of a hybrid method. They say a book is available for 52 checkouts or 24 months, whichever came first. And these metered access models, they still do follow that one copy, one user model as far as, for example, HarperCollins, we have one copy of a book. It can be checked out 26 times, but it can't have 26 checkouts at the same time. It's sequential. So again, there are times when we'll have to purchase more than one copy of one of those metered access titles. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the issues that we face in terms of doing collection development and making decisions about purchasing titles. I don't have this listed on here, but we had Random House is another publisher, and they do make their content available once you buy a copy. It's yours for the foreseeable future. There's no time limit or checkout limit, but in their case, they make their content available at a cost that's probably 3 times as high as the typical cover price of the book. So we are dealing with a lot of different models in terms of how publishers are trying to get their feet wet in terms of making their content available to libraries in an electronic format. So those are some of the issues that go on behind the scenes in terms of collection development. This next slide outlines some of the group's circulation policies, and these are policies that within certain parameters available through the OverDrive service, the group has some say about. So these are some decisions that the group has made through votes. For both audiobooks and ebooks, it is possible for patrons to choose between several checkout periods. And so the options that we have given them as a group are audiobooks can be checked out for 7 days or 14 days. Ebooks can be checked out for 7 days, 14 days, or 21 days. We were able to set default checkout periods, so if the patron just goes into their account, never makes any change to settings, and starts checking out audiobooks and ebooks, the default checkout period is going to be 14 days. However, if that patron goes into their account settings, they can actually change their own personal default. So for example, on my account, I have my audiobook checkout default set to 7 days, and I have my ebook checkout period set to 21 days as my personal defaults. When we're actually doing our demo and we're on the site looking at how it works, I'll go ahead and show you where your patrons can see their checkout period and where they can change it. You'll see a little screenshot on the right side of the page that has a blue borrow button, and underneath it tells the patron this title can be borrowed for 7 days. There's a link that says change, and that's where they can go to actually change their own checkout period. In the lower right corner of the screen, I have a screenshot that comes from the settings page, and again it shows options, checkout options for ebooks and audiobooks. And actually I took this screenshot a while ago. At one point in time we had some Disney online ebooks available, and that those ebooks are no longer available, so you won't see that last portion of the screen there. But that gives you an idea of what patrons are going to look for in terms of circulation period settings. Also, this is again something that the group set. We have set a checkout limit of 6 titles at a time. When we first got started, we didn't have as many titles in our collection, so we were more stingy with our checkout limit. At that time, we only let people check out 3 titles at a time. At some point, we expanded that to 4, and now we're up to 6 titles at a time. So again, that's something that the group decided. We also have a hold limit, and people can have 3 books on hold at one time. So again, those are circulation policies that the group has set. Early returns. One of the ways that there are people who are going to want to be able to not be limited to 6 books at a time. One of the ways that people can check out additional titles is to return books as they finish them. So most, though not all, books can be returned early. A couple of the exceptions are WMA audiobooks cannot be returned early. MP3 audiobooks in most cases can be returned early, but if the patron's only option was to download an MP3 audiobook to a Mac computer, then they're not going to be able to check that in earlier. And finally, if they check out an Open EPUB ebook and download it to Adobe Digital Edition software on their computer, again, they won't be able to check that in early, but Open EPUB ebooks are actually EPUB ebooks that aren't protected by digital rights management software, and we only have probably around 200 Open EPUB ebooks in our whole collection, so the chances of your patron running across one of those are fairly slim. Initially, and this is something that I will make sure to point out to you during our live demo, initially, upon checking out a book, while the patron's still in their online account, they're going to have an option to return the title right away. As soon as they do something with that title, as soon as they download it to their app on a mobile device or they download it to software on a computer, their ability to return it through their online account is going to go away, and they're going to have to actually use the app or the software to return it that way. So we'll look at that too in just a minute. Finally, if the patron decides not to return a book early, it will return itself automatically on its due date, and that is down to the minute. So it doesn't mean that, say your book is due on, in the example in the screenshot here, a book was due on June 11th, 2014, doesn't mean the patron has until midnight on June 11th, 2014. In this particular case, they have until 3:44 p.m., so that's obviously tied to when they checked the book out, what time of day they checked it out, and it's going to be each day's 24 hours from that checkout time period. So it's down to the minute. So that's something for patrons to be aware of. We've had patrons come home after work one day and they thought that after work they'd sit there and finish their book because they thought it was going to disappear at midnight, and it was already gone by the time they got home from work. So that caught them off guard. So that's, again, something to just kind of be aware of. Okay, in the last slide I mentioned DRM in association with an Open EPUB book, which I said was not protected by DRM. So what is DRM? DRM stands for Digital Rights Management, and basically DRM is a technology that controls or limits what you can do with a particular digital media file. So especially when we first got started, publishers really wanted to lock down their files because they were afraid of people sharing files illegally and they were afraid of losing money and revenue. So different file types are protected by different DRM, and then that also has an impact on what sorts of software you need in order to actually access and read or listen to those files. So a couple examples of DRM flavors. The audiobooks in our collection are either WMA or MP3. WMA files are protected by a Windows Media DRM, and that is why then with WMA files, as I'll talk about in a little bit, those can only be downloaded to Windows computers. When we first started with audiobooks, most of the books were made available in WMA format. Since that time, the shift has been towards MP3 audiobook files, which are not protected by DRM, and OverDrive is actually in the process of phasing out the WMA files. So we're moving more towards MP3 files, which aren't as locked down and are easier to manage. Most of the EPUB and PDF ebook files in our collection are protected by Adobe DRM, which is why if you're downloading them to a computer, you need Adobe Digital Edition software. And if you're accessing them on an app on a mobile device, you need some sort of, in the past you needed an Adobe ID, and now they're transitioning to something called an OverDrive account in order to identify yourself as an authorized user during that particular checkout period. Finally, Amazon has its own proprietary format of DRM that they apply to Kindle ebooks. Kindle ebook file has an extension of AZW, and that means that it is protected by Amazon's proprietary DRM. The fact that Amazon uses its own proprietary DRM is why Kindle format ebooks can only be accessed on Kindle devices or through the Kindle reading app. So I've mentioned a number of different file formats, so here I want to actually systematically talk about what file formats are available through Nebraska OverDrive. The screenshot on the right side of the screen comes from the advanced search screen of our Nebraska OverDrive library site. And you'll notice there is a formats and all formats drop-down menu, and you can actually limit your search from the advanced search screen to either all ebooks, regardless of ebook format, all audiobooks, regardless of audiobook format, or you can limit it to a very specific format. For example, if your patron has a Kindle reader, they may want to limit their search to just titles that are available in Kindle book format. There's EPUB format, Open EPUB, PDF, etc. So, to be a little bit more systematic, ebook formats. Not all ebooks are available in all formats, though there will be some ebooks that are available in all 4 of these formats. So you do have to pay a little bit of attention on a title-by-title basis as to what format it's available in. If a book's available in OverDrive Read format, then that book can actually be accessed and read directly through your web browser as long as you're using an up-to-date web browser. So that is a really nice option for patrons. They don't have to download the book, they don't have to download any special software, or they don't need any sort of authentication method other than the fact that they've logged into their OverDrive account. So OverDrive Read is a browser-based reading option. EPUB and PDF file formats are usually protected by Adobe DRM. EPUB is by far the most flexible, popular, and most desirable ebook format. It features sort of reflowable text, so it's really good at adjusting to the size of your screen. If you're reading an EPUB ebook on a small device, the lines will wrap, the font will adjust, so it's easy to read regardless of screen size. PDF is a little bit less flexible since it's like a photocopy, and it does not adapt well to smaller screen sizes, and so PDFs are not accessible on mobile devices. Those have to be downloaded to a computer and then in some cases transferred to a standalone ebook reader. And finally, Kindle format books are available. So those can be read by patrons who have Kindle readers. As far as audiobook formats, I think I've mentioned both of these already. There's the MP3 audiobook format. That is by far the most flexible. You can listen to the MP3 audiobooks on a mobile device using the OverDrive app, whereas the WMA audiobooks have to be downloaded to a Windows computer using special OverDrive software for Windows. Then they can be listened to on the computer or transferred to an MP3 player that will play protected WMA files. So again, I'm going to show you an example of both of these audiobook formats and how to download them. And like I said, the WMA format is being phased out. So now I want to talk a little bit about the software that you and your patrons may run across in the process of using OverDrive. The OverDrive mobile app is probably the easiest software to use, and it's increasingly the most likely, the most popular, I think. Initially, not as many people had smartphones or tablets, but in the past couple of years it seems like there's just been a real explosion in terms of ownership of smartphones, or people have iPads or Android tablets. And so those types of devices will let you download OverDrive's mobile app from the App Store associated with the device. So if you've got an iPad, for instance, there's going to be an iTunes App Store that you have access to from the main screen of the iPad. You can go into that App Store, search for OverDrive, find the OverDrive app, and download it and install it. The same is true on Android phones and tablets. Those give you access to the Google Play Store, where you can get the Android version of the OverDrive app. The Android version of the OverDrive app is also available in the Amazon App Store and can be downloaded to a Kindle Fire tablet, the Nook Color tablet, and finally there are also versions for Windows Phone and Windows 8. The OverDrive mobile app supports EPUB ebooks and MP3 audiobooks. So like I said, not every single ebook is available in EPUB format, but almost all. I would say 99% of ebooks are available in EPUB format. Similarly, with MP3 audiobooks, most audiobooks are available in MP3 format, though you will occasionally find an audiobook that's only available in WMA format. And OverDrive is working right now to try to get all the publishers to move over to MP3 format, and eventually there will not be any WMA in the collection anymore. So that's the direction in which OverDrive is really pushing. One point I want to make here about the OverDrive app: when you first download and install the OverDrive app on your device, you're going to be prompted to either sign into the app with an OverDrive account, or if you don't have an OverDrive account, you'll be asked to sign up for one. The OverDrive account is something different than your library account that your patron uses to log into the Nebraska OverDrive Library's website. So the OverDrive account is just going to be something they create on the OverDrive website. They'll be just linked there directly from the app during the app installation process, or they can go directly to www.overdrive.com to create the account. All it is it's going to ask them for an email address, and that's going to be their username, and then it's going to ask them to create a password. That OverDrive account is what identifies them as the authorized user of a particular title during a checkout period. So one thing for patrons to keep in mind: if they have more than one device that they're going to be using to access a book on during a checkout period, maybe they have a smartphone and they have an iPad. If they put the app on both of those devices, they're going to want to make sure that they sign in to the app with the same OverDrive account. That way they can download the same book to both devices during the checkout period, and their reading progress will actually be synced between the devices. So if they read up to chapter 3 on the iPad and then they leave that at home and go out and about running errands, and they're at the doctor's office and they pick up their smartphone and they say, okay, I want to pick up reading my book here in the app, they'll open it up and it'll start right at the end of chapter 3 where they left off. So that's the benefit of that OverDrive account, and making sure that any app you're using during a checkout period is authorized with the same account. You can actually have up to 6 devices authorized with that same OverDrive account at any one time. Okay, let's talk about the software that you would need on a Windows or Mac computer if you're going to download. First of all, we're going to talk about audiobooks. In the next screen, we'll talk about ebooks if you're going to download that content to an actual computer. The OverDrive desktop software is what you would use if you want to download an audiobook directly to a computer. Maybe you don't have a mobile device or a tablet. You can get it at app.overdrive.com. The Windows version of the software will let you download and listen to WMA and MP3 audiobooks directly on your Windows computer. If you've got a Mac, you can download the Mac version and it will let you download and listen to MP3 audiobooks. The way I keep this straight is I always remember that the W in WMA stands for Windows, and so WMA is kind of locked into only a Windows computer, so that's the way I remember that. After you've downloaded these audiobooks to your computer, if you don't want to listen to them on the computer and you want to transfer them to a mobile device, you can transfer them to a portable MP3 player, and I've got a picture of a little Sansa clip MP3 player on the screen here. Or in some cases, if the publisher permits it, you can burn it to a CD. On a case-by-case basis, publishers give permission to transfer audiobooks to iTunes software, so that is something that if you've got a patron with an older iPod, they may be able to transfer an audiobook to their iPod after downloading it to their computer as well. Okay, Adobe Digital Editions is the software that you would download to either a Windows or Mac computer if you want to download Adobe DRM protected EPUB or PDF ebooks to your Windows or Mac computer. Again, there are a couple of reasons you might want to do this. You can actually read the book directly off your computer if you want to, or this is what you have to do if you want to be able to then transfer that ebook to a standalone e-reader, something like a Nook Simple Touch or Kobo e-ink e-reader. So you do have some of these standalone e-readers. They tend to be e-ink, meaning the black and white. They don't let you they don't support apps, so they're not tablets, they're just ebook readers, and in these cases patrons do have to download to the computer, hook up the device to their computer with a USB cable, and then transfer the ebook over to the ebook reader. This is something that I'll show you how to do later on in today's session. One point I want to make about the Adobe Digital Edition software: when you download an Adobe DRM protected book to the software on the computer, you will be prompted to authorize the software. By default, it's going to ask you to authorize it with an Adobe ID. If you don't have an Adobe ID, it will give you a link to click on to go out and get an Adobe ID. There's also another option that you can select from a drop-down menu, and you can actually authorize the Adobe Digital Edition software with an OverDrive account. So if there's any chance that the patron may also be wanting to access ebooks on a mobile app that has the OverDrive app on it, and they're going to be authorizing that OverDrive app with an OverDrive account, then they're going to want to also use an OverDrive account to authorize their Adobe Digital Edition software, again, just so that they have that flexibility of being able to access the same title in both environments during the checkout period. That OverDrive account is kind of the key to their being able to access that DRM protected title during the checkout period. It's tied to their account for that particular amount of time. Okay, finally, Kindle books. Kindle format ebooks can only be read on Kindle devices, so standalone Kindle e-readers or Kindle tablets, or through a Kindle app that a patron may have downloaded to a tablet. So they may have an iPad and they may already be used to buying books through Amazon in Kindle format, and they send them to the Kindle app on their iPad. If they check out a Kindle format book through OverDrive, they can also send it to that Kindle app on their iPad. So if that's something that they're already used to doing and familiar with doing, they can continue to do it through OverDrive. What we usually recommend, however, is if they can download the OverDrive app on a device, then we recommend they download the OverDrive app, because that lets them access both EPUB ebooks and MP3 audiobooks, and the majority of ebooks are available in EPUB format and the majority of audiobooks are available in MP3 format. So that gives them the most flexibility, that OverDrive app. When Kindle ebooks are delivered to the patron, it's handled through the patron's Amazon account. Just by default, if they own a Kindle device, they should have an Amazon account, because that Kindle device will have to be registered to an Amazon account. The only time that's usually a problem is if some well-meaning family member has, for instance, given grandma their old Kindle that they no longer want, but they didn't happen to give her information about the Amazon account that that Kindle is registered to. So that can sometimes be a problem, but otherwise, if someone bought their own Kindle and set it up, part of that process would have been creating an Amazon account and registering their Kindle device to the Amazon account. Content can be delivered to Kindles wirelessly as long as there's a Wi-Fi connection. OverDrive books in Kindle format can be returned early, but again, that's handled through the Manager Kindle area of the patron's Amazon account. Again, that's something I'll show you. And I just want to point out here, there are basically two different types of Kindles that your patrons may have. If they have the e-ink Kindle, they're going to need, the e-ink Kindle does not have a sophisticated web browser on it, so they're going to need access to a computer or a tablet of some sort in order to actually search the Nebraska OverDrive Library's website, check out the book, go to their Amazon account, and then send it to the Kindle. If they have a Kindle Fire tablet, they can do everything on the tablet itself. They can go to the website, they can check out a book, they can go to the Amazon account, they can have it delivered to their tablet, all from the tablet itself. Again, just to reiterate, what we recommend is that if someone does have a Kindle Fire tablet, we actually recommend that they do download the OverDrive app onto that tablet, since it does support apps, because that way they have even more choice. They can check out Kindle format ebooks, but they can also check out EPUB format ebooks and MP3 audiobooks, so they kind of have the best of all worlds there. Okay, so somebody asked if we're going to be able to take a bathroom break. I guess I would say just if you have to take a break, go away and come back when you're ready. I'm going to pretty much have to keep on going, just because we have so much content to cover that we don't really have a lot of time to break. So if you need to step away, that's fine, and you can always watch the recording if you need to catch something that you missed. So any other questions before we actually move on to the demo to actually look at the site? Okay, if not, let me switch gears here. Now you should see on your computer the Nebraska OverDrive Library's website. It looks a little bit different than usual right now because we're in the midst of what they call a big library read, and this is an opportunity during which a particular title that's being promoted is made available for unlimited simultaneous use, meaning any number of people can have it checked out at the same time. And right now they're promoting a title called Anatomy of a Misfit. It's available from October 13th to October 28th, and so that's appearing at the very top of our screen. Typically, we don't have a particular title being featured, and we just have a selection of ebooks listed towards the top of the screen, so normally your patrons would see a display like this. One thing that I recommend, and I sometimes forget to do this myself, but if you can encourage patrons to do this, it's a good habit to get into, is before they start searching the site, if they can sign into their account right away, that's the way they're going to get the most relevant information at all times. So I would always recommend that people sign into their account right away. So I'm going to go ahead and sign into a demo account that we have set up with Chadron Public Library, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And there are several different ways that patrons can search for books. There's a basic search box up at the top of the main search screen, and you can type in an author name, a book title, a subject. I could type in vegetarian cooking or crochet or knitting or some sort of subject descriptor. So I can search that way. There's an advanced search screen that you can use, or you can simply browse the different categories that are available to you. You'll see there's a menu option here, and this menu button toggles on and off some different categories. So you can access featured collections like new ebooks, new audiobooks, new releases, most downloaded. Some of the categories are format specific, for instance, ebook. Some of them are audiobook specific, and some of them contain both ebooks and audiobooks. For instance, children's fiction would contain both ebooks and audiobooks. You can see some of those categories arrayed down here on the main screen. So for instance, under new ebooks, I could search there, new audiobooks, new releases. So I'm going to go ahead and look at new releases. It shows me about 12 new releases on the main search screen, and I can click on View More if I want to see additional new releases. In this particular case, it actually shows me 22,000 plus titles. They are sorted by release date, so the most recently released items are going to appear at the top of the list. In this particular case, I have both ebooks and audiobooks included in this category, and you can tell at a glance what format you're looking at based on the format icon in the upper right-hand corner of each book cover. So the first book here, In Real Life, it's an ebook. There's a little book cover, book image graphic in the upper right-hand corner. The next book, Fields of Blood, you see a little headphone icon in the upper right-hand corner. That's an audiobook. If you know right away that you're primarily interested in ebooks, at this point you can always filter your search. Up here in the upper left-hand side of the screen, you've got an ebook and an audiobook filter. So I'm going to go ahead and limit by ebook. The other thing that you can see right away at a glance, if you know what you're looking for, is whether a book is checked out or available. In this case, all 8 titles that we see here at the top of the result list, the book icon in the upper right-hand corner is kind of grayed out. That means it's already checked out. So you see as you scroll through this page, all of these titles are checked out. And that can get fairly frustrating for patrons fairly quickly, so what I often recommend is that people limit their search to titles that are currently available to check out. And again, you can do that over here on the right side of the screen under Show Me. There's an option to show titles that are available now, so I'm going to click on Available Now. And now I'm down to 8,572 ebooks that are available to check out at this particular moment in time. If you take your cursor and you hover over a particular ebook, so I'm going to go ahead and hover over this Carl Hiaasen title, you'll see you have several options at this point. You can borrow the book directly from this screen. You can read a sample of the ebook from the screen. There's a little bookmark icon which actually lets you add this title to a wish list associated with your account. There's a share icon that lets you share a reference to this book on your Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest accounts, or by email. And finally, there's a link that you can click on to get more information about the book. Now, usually what people wind up doing, and I'm no different, is they just go ahead and borrow the book directly from the screen. And usually that's no problem, but the one piece of information you're really missing about this book is what formats it's available in. That's information that's available on the detailed record page. And to get to that detailed record page, you would click on the More link. So I'm going to go ahead and click on More. This takes me to more specific information about the book, including if your patron is checked into their own account, it shows them what their default checkout period is. It says this title can be borrowed for 14 days. Change your lending period. So this is one place where a patron can go in and customize their lending period. So I'm going to click on Change Your Lending Period. And you'll see for ebooks it's 7, 14, or 21 days. So I'm going to switch to 21 days. And then I'm going to go back. And you'll see now my checkout period is 21 days if I decide to check it out. Also over on the right, this is where that format information is available. So this book is available in Kindle format, so it's going to make people who own Kindles happy. It's available in that OverDrive read format, which means it can be read directly through the patron's browser. And it's also available in Adobe EPUB ebook format. It's also often useful to look at the number of copies that are owned by the library and that are available. In this particular case, the library owns 1 copy, and that 1 copy is available. So I'm going to go ahead and actually borrow the book right now, and it will take me to my bookshelf where I see a list of all the titles I currently have checked out. So in this particular case, you'll see I had 3 previous titles already checked out. A couple of them I checked out yesterday, and those say they expire in 13 days. Another one I checked out, I believe, on Monday, and that expires in 12 days. Notice that the book that I just checked out has a return title button right there, so I haven't done anything else with this book. I'm still in my Nebraska OverDrive Libraries account. I can return it at this point. These other titles, I've already selected a format and downloaded them to a device, and in that case I can no longer return them from this bookshelf screen within my account. I actually have to go to the device I've downloaded them to and return them from there. So that is something to be aware of. That's that return, as soon as I select a specific format and download this title, this return button is going to disappear. I'll also point out over on the right here, it will show you kind of a running count of your checkouts. So checkout limit 6. I have 4 checked out. I have 2 checkouts remaining. I have a limit of 3 holds that I can place, and I already have 1 title on hold. And then I have 2 items that have been added to my wish list that are currently available to check out. So if I wanted to actually see what titles I have on hold, I can click on hold right here. You'll see I have Bond Bombshell placed on hold. I'm user 1 out of 1 on the waiting list. I have auto checkout currently turned off, but if I want to have auto checkout turned on, that means as soon as the book's available, it's going to be checked out to my account, and I will get an email notification letting me know that that book's been checked out to me, and that's the email address that I'll be notified at. So that is where books on hold are listed for you. Okay, so I want to go ahead now. I've got 1 book checked out, and I want to go quickly and check out an MP3 audiobook as well. For this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and go to the advanced search screen. And I'm going to go ahead and do a specific format limit on this search. I'm going to say limit by format. I want MP3 audiobooks. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say I want to display titles that are available for checkout right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do my search. And I'm going to go ahead and it looks like the help's available to check out. So I'm going to go ahead and, because I already limited my search to MP3, I'm going to assume it's available in MP3 format. I'm going to go ahead and borrow it. And it is now available to download. And again, because I haven't downloaded it yet, I have a return option. Okay, so just to summarize what I've got here, it looks like I've got a WMA audiobook that I checked out a couple days ago. I have, it looks like a Kindle format of Janet Ivanovich title. I have an EPUB ebook I checked out yesterday. I have a book today. I'm interested in the EPUB format, but I haven't selected a specific format yet. And I've got OverDrive. I've got the help, which is available in audio format, and we're assuming it's MP3 format because that was my limit that I did before I did my search. Okay, so now we need to start talking about how to actually read the book, how to download it and read it. While we're here, I'll show you this read in your browser option. I'm going to go ahead and click on read, and you'll see I get a screen that has a summary of the book and then a link on the bottom that says start reading now. And I can just start clicking on the right side of the screen to start paging through the book. So this is a really nice, simple way to immediately start reading the book. As long as you have online access to your Nebraska OverDrive Libraries account, you can get in and read your book that you have currently checked out. To access a menu, I just click in the center. And I have a scroll bar that I can use to scroll through the book. I can click on the menu button to bring up other options to change. I can change readability. I can change font that's used, justification, line spacing, etc. So I have some customization options here. If I want to close out of this, you'll notice that the OverDrive read format text opened in a new window tab. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that tab. And now I'm back to my bookshelf. So what I want to do first is I'm going to go ahead and take this ebook that we just checked out, and I want to download it to my computer, and I want to transfer it to, I've got a Nook Simple Touch e-reader. So this is an e-reader that I can't put the OverDrive app on. So I have to download to my computer, to which I already have Adobe Digital Edition software downloaded. And then I'm going to plug in my Nook Simple Touch and transfer it over. So let's go ahead and go through that process. So I click on download, and it shows me the two formats in which this book is available. In this case, I want Adobe. I don't have a Kindle that I want it on, so I'm going to get the Adobe EPUB ebook version. As soon as I select that format, I can click confirm and download, and the download process starts. You'll see it asks me if what I want to do with this, it's an ACSM file, and the default option is open it with Adobe Digital Editions 4.0, and that's what I want to do. I want to open it, so I'm going to say OK. That begins the download process. It automatically opens Adobe Digital Edition software, and it opens my book to the cover. So, as I said, if I want, I can actually read the book using the Adobe Digital Edition software on my computer. That's not ideal, however, and since I have a standalone e-ink e-reader, I want to transfer it to that e-reader. So that's what we're going to do now. So I need to get out of reading view. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the library link up in the upper left-hand corner of this software screen. And this takes me back to sort of the main screen of Adobe Digital Editions. At this point, I'm going to bring up, I've got a little webcam set up, and so I want to bring up a screen that will show you my little Nook Simple Touch e-reader. So I think now you can see both my e-reader and you can see the Adobe Digital Edition software. What I want you to do is watch up on the left side of the Adobe Digital Edition software screen. What I need to do at this point is I need to actually take the USB cable, which you can see here, and I'm going to plug it in to my ebook reader and the other end into my computer USB. So I've got a little cable extension here for my computer, so I'm plugging this in, and what I want you to do is watch up above where it says bookshelves on the left side of the Adobe Digital Edition software. Once I get this plugged in, you should actually see my Nook device show up in that column. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. And there, now you should see my Nook device is plugged in. So all I have to do now to get this ebook over onto this Nook device is I can either, whoopsie, my little picture went away. I can right-click on this book. I guess I don't have any option. It's going to go away. I can right-click on this book and say copy to computer device Nook, or I can left-click, hold, and drag, and then once I'm over the Nook, I can release and it will transfer it, copy it to the device. So now if I go back to my picture of the ebook reader, I actually have to unplug it so it is no longer acting like a flash drive. If I open the ebook reader and I go to the library and I view a list of files, you'll see right at the top, No Surrender. That's the book that we just transferred on to the Nook. So that is how you get an EPUB ebook downloaded from OverDrive and transferred to a standalone e-ink e-reader. Now to get it off of this device and to return it, we actually reverse the process. So I'm going to plug the Nook Simple Touch in again. It goes back into USB mode. Let me get back to the software now. If I click on the Nook link, it's going to show me the different books that are on the Nook device. And here's my book that we just transferred over. If I right-click on it, I have the option of returning the borrowed item, so I'm going to click Return Borrowed Item. It says, are you sure you want to return? No surrender. I'll say Return. And the book is not only returned back into my into OverDrive, but it's also removed from my device. So it's no longer on the device either. So that's how you get an ebook that you've downloaded to Adobe Digital Edition software returned, and how you get it back into your account. So I'm going to go ahead and go back now to our Nebraska OverDrive Libraries account. And I'm going to refresh my screen, and you'll see now that that book is no longer in the account. It has been successfully returned. Okay, so that's the first download demo. The next download demo we're going to do is we're going to download the WMA audiobook. And again, remember, the WMA audiobooks can only be downloaded to OverDrive software on a Windows computer. So I already have that OverDrive software downloaded on this computer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the download link. It asks me what I want to do. Do I want to open this file with OverDrive Media Console? And so I'm going to say OK. It opens the OverDrive Media Console software, and it asks me where I want to save this file. And I always accept the default location, so I say OK. It shows me all the different parts of the audiobook, and I can download all the parts at once. Normally I would download all the parts at once. Since that takes some time, I'm going to go ahead and just download part 1, say OK, and it is already downloaded. So if I want at this point, you'll notice up here there's a play option in the software. I can click on play, and it will actually start playing it. And I'm using a headphones and speaker and a headset, so you can't actually hear it. But if we were here and had normal speakers set up, you'd be able to actually hear the audiobook going. What many people like to do is they like to actually transfer the book to an MP3 player. And so again, I'm going to bring up the camera preview here, and I will show you my little MP3 player that I have. This is a Sansa clip. I think I got it for about 25 bucks, so they're a lot cheaper than the more expensive iPods, iPod Touches, etc. So again, this is what I'm ultimately going to transfer this book to. So I've got the title I want to transfer selected. If you look up here at the top, one of the options is transfer. So I'm going to click on transfer. It's going to tell me, please connect your device and select next. So at this point, you can see down, I think in the software, I'm actually connecting using USB. I'm going to connect my little device. Click on Next. And it says no player could be found. Okay, now I just retried it and there it found it. You'll see it says player Sansa clip 2 gigabytes. So it did recognize my device and it's going to transfer the one part over. So I say next and you can see that something's happening on my device. The file is being written to it. That file is transferred. I just click finish. Now I can disconnect my MP3 player and I'm ready to go. Obviously, in most cases, I would actually download all the files in the book and transfer all the files in the book, but that does take some time, so we'll just do that one file. So that's how you actually transfer audiobooks. And the one interesting fact to keep in mind is when you transfer the audiobooks to a little player like this, this player is not smart like a smartphone or smart like a tablet, and it actually doesn't recognize the expiration period on your book, so the book will stay on here until you take it off. So if you don't quite get it finished during the checkout period, you do have a little bit more flexibility when you're listening to it on a device like this. So that's just kind of nice fact to have in the back of your mind. Okay, we talked about how to return the ebook, so let's talk about how to return the audiobook. In the case of the WMA audiobook, WMA audiobooks cannot be returned early. So if I click on delete, it will say, are you sure you want to delete the selected title? Yes. It deletes it off my computer, but it has not returned it. It's still checked out to me. This other audiobook that you'll see that I previously downloaded and have downloaded to this software is The Lightning Thief. This is an MP3 audiobook, and it can be returned early. So I've got that selected. If I go click on delete here, and you'll see now it's going to ask me that the selected title will be deleted. Some can be returned to the library. Click Return Delete to both return and delete the applicable title. So if I click Return Delete, it will actually return it and it will no longer be checked out to me. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that. But that's how you would actually return an audiobook if that's permitted. Just to point out here, if permission is available to burn an audiobook to a CD, you click on the burn option and it would prompt you to put recordable CDs in the CD drive of your player, and then it would walk you through the process of burning them to the CD. So again, that's a good option to be aware of. Okay, so that's how you download an audiobook to your computer and how you transfer it to MP3 player or burn it to a CD. I've got a couple more options that I want to review. We still need to talk about how you check out a Kindle format ebook and deliver it to a Kindle device. So we have a Kindle ebook right here. So I'm going to go ahead and Janet Ivanovich, it says download Kindle book. When I click on the download button, what it does is instead of starting to download the file, it actually sends me over to Amazon. And in this particular case, it actually recognizes me and it logs me into my Amazon account. If it doesn't recognize you, it may prompt you to log in. So all you have to do is log into your Amazon account. It tells you that this is a digital library book. It will give you an option to return the book right at this point if you want to return it. If you want to actually get the book onto your Kindle, you would click on this Get Library Book button. Underneath that Get Library Book button, you see it says Deliver To, and it's a drop-down menu. In this particular case, we at the Library Commission have several options. We actually own 2 Kindle devices. We own a Kindle 3, which is a black and white e-ink Kindle. And we also own, you'll see down here, a Kindle Fire. We also have a Kindle app that we've installed on our iPad, and then we've got other Kindle apps on other devices. So I have all of these options. In this particular case, I'm going to say Kindle 3, and actually our Kindle 3 is actually in a drawer in Michael's office. So it's probably turned off right now, but I have actually sent this book to the Kindle 3, and as it says, the next time that device connects to Wi-Fi, so if Michael were to open up his drawer, turn on the Kindle 3, and let it connect to the Wi-Fi here, that book would immediately be delivered to his device. Okay? I'm going to go ahead now, and I want to show you where you would go to actually check that book in. In your Amazon account, there is an area called Manage Your Content and Devices. If you go there, it does actually prompt you to log in. So I just need to confirm my password, and it'll take me to my list of content. You'll see here's Notorious 19, which I just borrowed. If I select this title as the title I want to do something about, it will highlight it. I now have an action button, and if I click on that action button, it gives me several options. If I want at this point, I can actually deliver it to another device. So I've already delivered it to the Kindle 3. I'm going to go ahead just for fun, and I'm going to actually deliver it to our Kindle iPad app. Here it is listed at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and say deliver it to the iPad app, because we will actually be looking at the iPad in a minute for another purpose, and so we can check to see if it's there. This is where I would go if I wanted to return the book. You'll see I have a return this book right here. So I am not going to return it because I want to see if it shows up on our Kindle iPad app, but this is where your patrons would go if they want to return a Kindle format book that they have checked out through OverDrive. They do want to be aware Amazon is at every turn going to try to convince them to buy a copy of the book, so there is a purchase this book option, which they probably do not want to take advantage of if they've already checked a copy out from the library for free, so just be aware of that. Okay, so that's all there is to getting a Kindle format ebook onto a Kindle. I didn't have to connect my Kindle device with a USB to my computer. As long as I have a Wi-Fi connection, it's going to be delivered wirelessly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to our Nebraska OverDrive Libraries account. And actually, we're going to get ready to switch gears here, because now we're going to talk about the OverDrive app, which is probably, like I said earlier, the method that most of your patrons are going to use. If your patrons have a smartphone, if they have a tablet like an iPad or a Galaxy tablet of some sort, they will be using the OverDrive app. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the camera view. We're not going to be using the computer at this particular point in time. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the iPad. See if I can get this aligned here. Okay. And there's a delay between what I'm seeing and what's showing up in the audience view. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm in my iPad. And the first thing I want to talk about is how does your patron actually get the OverDrive app onto their smartphone or tablet. As I said, the OverDrive app is available in major app stores that are associated with these devices. If you've got an iPad or an iPhone or an iPod Touch, you're going to have a link to the iTunes App Store on the main screen of your device, and hopefully if your patron owns one of these devices, they're somewhat familiar with the App Store, since that's where they would have gotten other apps that they've put on their device. So all they have to do is go to the App Store, there should be an option that lets them search. So they just need to type in OverDrive. Click on search. And you'll see the OverDrive app does show up as my first search result. In this particular case, because I already have downloaded and installed the OverDrive app, it says open instead of free, but if I had not yet downloaded and installed the app, it would say free, and I'd go through the process of acquiring it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my main screen, and I just know from experience that my OverDrive app is stored on my second screen full of programs. So there it is, the little blue square with the white O in it. So I'm going to click on open. And as I mentioned earlier, when your patrons first download and install the OverDrive app, they are going to be prompted to either sign in with or sign up for an OverDrive account. If they don't have an OverDrive account yet, there's going to be a place to click to go get one, and it's going to walk them through the process. All they need to do is type in an email address and come up with a password, and then it's going to bring them back into the app, and the app will be associated with that OverDrive account they just created. So in order to open the app, I'm going to swipe across here, and that opens the menu. The first thing your patrons are going to have to do is they're going to have to identify their OverDrive library that they check out books from. You'll see in this particular case, I've got 3 different OverDrive collections listed. I've got Lincoln City Libraries, Nebraska OverDrive Libraries, and Omaha Public Library. When your patrons first open the app, they're not going to have anything listed here. They're going to need to click on Add a Library. They're going to have an option to search by library name, city, or postal code. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in a zip code. So 69101 is the zip code for North Platte. I'm going to click on search. It's going to show me North Platte Public Library is the library associated with that zip code. If I select that, it's going to show me Nebraska OverDrive Libraries. That's the OverDrive collection associated with that library. What I would normally do is the first time, if I have not already identified or saved this library collection as a favorite, this would not be a gold star. It would be a star that was empty, and I would tap on the star, and that would make it gold, and that would then save it, so it will always show up in my list of favorites. So this particular case, we're just going to go ahead and go back. Nebraska OverDrive Libraries is the collection I want to access, so I'll click on that to go to the Nebraska OverDrive website. I'm going to the website within the app. You can still see the little app menu icon up here in the left-hand corner. And you'll see it looks just like it looked when we were accessing it on a computer screen. I'm going to go ahead, since we've already checked out a number of titles, I'm going to go ahead and just log into our account. And it remembers the account that I logged into yesterday, so I'm going to just sign in. And you will see here the titles that we have checked out. You should recognize them since they're the same, since this is the same account we were accessing on the computer a few minutes ago. One thing I wanted to point out is you'll notice that this Cuckoo's Calling title, the book cover is grayed out, and it says this device does not support this format. The reason is that this is a WMA format audiobook, and remember that WMA format audiobooks can only be downloaded on Windows computers, and so that book's still checked out to us, but it's not a format that will work on this particular device, and so the OverDrive app recognizes that and gives you a message to that effect. So what we want to do is we want to, on this app, we can download an EPUB ebook and an MP3 audiobook, and we've got one of each. So I'm going to say download EPUB ebook. It says loading title, title added. Now I'm going to go ahead and do download MP3 audiobook. The audio book will take a little bit longer because there are 14 separate parts. But I'm going to go ahead and click on the little menu icon up here on the left, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to my app bookshelf. So here's something just to point out, because this can be confusing when you're talking to patrons. This is the bookshelf within your patron's Nebraska OverDrive Libraries account, so they're signed into their account on the Nebraska OverDrive Libraries website, and this is called their bookshelf. Now we're going back to the app bookshelf, the OverDrive app bookshelf within their app. So there are two bookshelves there that sometimes it gets confusing talking about. So here's the EPUB ebook. To open it and start reading, all I have to do is tap on it, and I can start paging through and reading it. As simple as that. If I want to do something other than read, I want to access some of the other menu options, all I have to do is click in the center of the page, and I get some font controls, I get table of contents, I get a little scroll bar that shows me progress through the book, and if I want to exit out of the book, I can click on the app menu and go back to my bookshelf. If I want to listen to the audiobook, I just tap on the audiobook and a little player option comes up. I don't know if you can hear that, but it is actually, the audio is actually playing. So, and again, I can click on the app menu and get back to the bookshelf. As far as returning books through the app, it's as simple as pressing and holding your finger on the book cover, and you have the option of deleting, returning it, or sharing it. So I'm going to click on return. It asks me, am I sure I want to return this title? Yes, so I return it. Same with the audiobook. Return, return. And if we go back, let's go back to the Nebraska OverDrive Libraries website. We're still logged into our account. And I'm going to go ahead and let me just change screens and then go back to my bookshelf. And it looks like the screen hasn't refreshed yet, but those should then disappear out of our account shortly. So that is kind of a quick overview of four different ways to download content. Oh, I know what we wanted to do. While we were here, we wanted to look and actually see if that Kindle book we sent here actually went on to the Kindle app. So here's the Kindle app. that is loaded on our iPad, and we asked for the Amazon account to deliver our Janet Ivanovich Kindle format ebook to our Kindle app on the iPad, and it is in the process, it looks like, of loading it right now. So again, you can see how easy it is to get the Kindle books on either Kindle devices or on Kindle apps. Okay, so that's an overview of several different methods of downloading several different formats of ebooks and audiobooks. The last thing I want to talk about is where to find help for OverDrive. Before I do that, do any of you have any questions? If you do, feel free to type them into the question box and I'll do my best to answer them. And you can certainly be thinking about it and answer and think about questions you might have. While you're thinking, I'll just go ahead and point out what I think are the most important help areas to be aware of. So on any of the screens in the Nebraska OverDrive Library's website, you can click on this Help button right up here, and you get a help screen. The first thing I want to point out to you here is the link that says Applications. This will give you information about the software your patrons may need to download in order to access different formats of ebooks and audiobooks. If they've got a mobile device, a smartphone, like the iPad or an iPhone, as I said, the easiest way for them to get the OverDrive app on that mobile device is to just go to the app store associated with that device, directly on the device, and search for OverDrive. If they need to download the OverDrive software for Windows or OverDrive software for Mac in order to download audiobooks to the computer and then transfer them to an MP3 player or iPod, they can come here to Software Downloads, click on OverDrive. They'll get to this screen. They click on Download OverDrive, and it actually drops them down to a lower point on the screen. And now this I find a little bit confusing. It will talk about the different app stores, and it will point you to the different app stores in case you're going to want that OverDrive app on a mobile device. But it also has a link to the OverDrive software for Mac, and if I click on it, you'll see it actually will start the download process for downloading that software. Same thing with OverDrive for Windows. Here it says download for Windows Desktop. If I click on that link, it actually starts the process of downloading that software for Windows. Backing up to that OverDrive help screen, there's a similar link for Adobe Digital Editions. If they're going to want to download EPUB ebooks or PDF ebooks to their computer, they're going to need to download that Adobe Digital Edition software. This links directly to the Adobe website, the specific website for that Digital Edition software. The screen has a download link, and if you click on that, it takes you to a page where there's a version for Mac and a version for Windows. And again, if they click on that link, it immediately starts the software download process. Okay, so that is where you can go to direct your patrons to the software they might need to download to a Windows or Mac computer. The last link on this help screen says support. This actually takes you to a frontline tech support form that you can direct your patrons to. This past year, our group actually voted to spend some money in order to provide this frontline tech support service directly to our patrons. And so this enables them to type in their name, their email address, their library card number, and then it's got forms that walk them through describing the problem they're having. They submit this form, and then OverDrive tech support gets directly in touch with them by email. Their promise is within 24 hours, but usually it's more like an hour or 2 hours that they'll get back to you. So this is a very good place to send patrons if they have specific problems that you can't help them with. This gets them direct, personalized help from OverDrive experts. So that's a very important link to be aware of as you're starting to introduce this service to your patrons. Finally, I want to point out the main OverDrive help link at the top of the screen. When you first look at this OverDrive help page, I think it can be overwhelming. There's a place where you can type in search terms to search for help. There's a getting started link, an ebooks link, an audiobook link, etc. But if you can spend a little bit of time finding your way around and navigating, I think they do a really good job of providing help. What I particularly recommend is this videos link up here at the top of the page, and right to the right of it, this devices link. Usually when a patron comes in, they know what kind of device they have that they want to use with OverDrive. So they want to know then, what do I need for my device? This lets you really zero in on the specifics for that patron. So for instance, if a patron comes in and they've got a Kindle Fire tablet, they can click right here on Kindle Fire tablets, and it will take them to instructions that are specific for their needs. It will tell them what apps they need, what formats are available to them. It will take them to a Getting Started article specifically for their device. So it really walks them step by step through the process. The same thing goes for videos over here. So let's say I've got let's say I have an iPad. So I'm going to go down here and say, okay, I've got an iOS device. I click on this, and it will take me to a page where I've got videos, and they're actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 short videos walking patrons step by step through the different steps of the process. So introduction, how to install the OverDrive app on an iPad, how to set up your OverDrive account, how to add a library, how to borrow titles, all the way through returning the title after you're done with it. So the nice thing about this is that patron actually gets to see what the various steps of the process look like. So this is really, I think, if you can point your patrons to the devices section and the video section, I think that'll go a long way towards helping you help them. Okay, I've got a couple questions here, so let me take a look. And Eileen asked a question. I have an iPad and sometimes I have difficulty downloading from Google. Do I have any thoughts about that? And I'm afraid I'm not sure what you mean by downloading from Google. Since that doesn't sound like it's specifically related to OverDrive, I'm not sure I have an answer for that at this point. Another question, I tried to download an MP3 audiobook to my iPad. Where did it go? It said it is checked out. If you have downloaded one thing that sometimes confuses people with iPads is you can actually just open the Safari browser on the iPad. You can browse directly to the Nebraska OverDrive Library site. You can navigate the site. You can check out a book and download something without being in the OverDrive app. And sometimes when you do that, the book that gets downloaded goes someplace else other than, it goes somewhere on the device, but you don't know where it is. What I would want to try to do is make sure you were opening up the app, then going to the Nebraska OverDrive Library's website through the app, and going through the process from within the app, and then it should go to the app bookshelf when it's downloaded. So that's probably what I want to try to download. Wanda, if you continue to have problems with that, give me a call. But I think that's probably, it's probably a matter of whether you went directly through the Safari browser or whether you went through the app. Does anybody else have any questions that they've thought of? Okay, Wanda said she went through the app. Why don't you give me a call and we'll double check on that, or like you said, watch the videos. It should go directly to the app bookshelf. So if it didn't, we're going to want to make sure it's the right format, things like that. Make sure it's an MP3 audiobook. Okay, any other questions? Well, I know it's a lot that we cover today. I hope that you are going to leave the session today not feeling more overwhelmed, but feeling at least like you have some inroads into different formats and different software, some idea of how this is all supposed to work. As always, feel free to give me a call when you have questions. Lots of times it's hard to actually process and remember something until you've actually seen it and had your hands on it. So as people bring in different devices and you go through different scenarios, some of this will get more cemented in your minds. So I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I will go ahead and those of you who signed in, I will go ahead, I should have a record of that, and I can submit your names to Linda Jensen so that you'll get CE credit. If you had somebody else watching with you, please just send me an email letting me know that, or you can send that information through the questions, and I can make sure that their names are submitted for CE credit as well. Otherwise, if nobody else has any other questions, we'll go ahead and I'll let you guys go, and you guys can start logging out, and I'll go ahead and shut things down here and turn off the recording. So thanks so much for your patience.